The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Hellenic Fantasy. They're coming to customers. Play just $5, get $100 in bonus funds. Use the promo code SGPN. And welcome, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Currently Thursday night, November 6th, around 11:45 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm always Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the semifinal matchups taking place in Athens and in Metz, taking place on Friday. So to break down those four matches in a second. Before we get into that, though, a brief reminder: support the show by like, subscribing on YouTube. A reminder, you can also find the podcast on Spotify and Apple audio only. If you want it that way, it's fine. Don't forget to leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. So once again, YouTube, of course, SGPN, Tennis Gambling Podcast, and same thing with Spotify or Apple. But either way, leave a like, subscribe on YouTube, and leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. Plus, a reminder, you can check out the merch store on the SGPN website. We have a lot of great tennis merch. We have sweatshirts, we have T-shirts, we have mugs, different colors, very affordable. Think you'll like the selection that we have. Plus, a reminder, we do have other shows on the network for different sports. So college basketball tipped off this week. Make sure to subscribe to the College Experience to catch their daily podcast. Download the SGPN app for free. Once again, free college basketball picks if you download the SGPN app. So moving on to the recap of what happened in the quarters. Unfortunately, the lock and dog picks were not very good. For the lock, picked up a loss. We had Norrie straight sets at minus 110. Pretty annoying loss there. Norrie led 4-1 in the first set and lost 5 games in a row. And then he won the match. So pretty annoying when you have the 2-0 and the guy you bet on wins the match in general. And the one set he loses, he completely punts a 4-1 lead. So not exactly fun there. Picked up a loss as Norrie did win, but not in straight sets. So that was a loss. For the dog, not even close. We had Moore to keep it competitive against Musetti. We had Moore plus 1.5 sets at plus 113. Not even close. Musetti killed him. Nothing else to really add there. Moore won, I believe it was a grand total of 6 games, I think. But either way, Mueller wasn't close. The Norrie one hurt. It is what it is. We'll look for a better episode here in the semis. Now, for the recap of the quarters, it was really a tale of two tournaments because Athens was pretty straightforward and Metz was very complicated. So for Athens, you had 2 very ugly matches early. Korda beat Kekmanovic in straight sets, and you ended up seeing Musetti beat Mueller in straight sets. 2 very boring, straightforward matches, and that was all she wrote. Then it got competitive. You saw Djokovic beat Borges 7-6, 6-4. So straight sets, but still competitive at least. And then you saw Hanfmann beat Giron in straight sets. Same scoreline as Djokovic, but either way, point is every single match in the quarters in Athens ended in straight sets. Looking at the actual favorites, though, 3 of the 4 favorites won. The one exception was Hanfmann, who pulled off the upset at around plus 130. For Metz, though, definitely chaotic. Ended up seeing 3 of the 4 matches go to a third set. Almost all 4. Sonego almost lost that second set tiebreak, but he ended up holding on to win. So Norrie, said before, beat Jacquet in 3. Could have been straight sets either way. A point is he did end up winning in 3 sets. Sonego beat Altmaier 6-4, 7-6. Could have dropped the set there, but ended up holding on and winning in straight sets. Tien beat Berrettini in 3, and Sacco beat Tabor in 3 sets. He avenged his qualifying loss to Tabor earlier this past week. So for the episode, once again, the lock and dog picks were not very good. I'd say that the ending portion of the day was not that bad. We ended up having Tien in 3, and we also had Sacco in 3. So those worked out pretty well, but unfortunately for the actual lock and dog picks, didn't work out. And once again, not that much drama in Athens, a lot of drama in Metz, and we'll see what happens moving forward. Now, for the recap of the quarter picks, so this is the bright side of the recap because we did very well for the quarters. For Athens, we won every single quarter. For the first quarter, we had Djokovic, minus 188. Pretty straightforward, but you know what? A win's a win. Second quarter, we had our long shot. We had Hanfmann at 5-1, and he got there as he upset Giron. So nice 5-1 cash there for the long shot. For the third quarter, we had Korda at plus 120. That got there as well. And fourth quarter, we had Musetti at minus 138. We got every quarter right. Now, we did lose a couple of other choices. We had Majcik, for example, in the third quarter. We had Nakashima in the second quarter, and we also took a flyer on Tabilo in the first quarter. But point is, we ended up getting all of the right answers, and we didn't spend, I'd say, that many units trying to chase other guys. We were pretty concise with our choices, and either way, you made money if you ended up backing all the quarter plays. For the outrights, we are still alive. 4 people left. and we have two of them. We have Djokovic at plus 170, and we have Korda at 10-1. So hypothetical matchup in the final is still possible, and we automatically win, of course, if that happens. But overall, very good outrights there in Athens. As for Metz, so far, pretty decent. For the first quarter, we did win. We didn't have odds, though, when we ended up recording. Felix dropped out, so we had no odds at the time. Gave out Nori, so whatever number you got ended up winning. For the second quarter, picked up a loss. We had Rimmerknech. Third quarter, picked up a loss as we ended up having Bublik. But for the fourth quarter, we ended up having TN, and that got there at plus 187. So even though we had no price on Nori, that means we got 6 of the 8 quarter winners correct. So we ended up going 75%, basically. So can't complain. Anytime you have 8 people in the semis and you end up getting 6 of the 8 right, you made some money in the outright market. So can't really complain too much, and we'll see what happens moving forward. For the outrights, though, in Metz, ended up losing a couple of people. We lost Bublik at 350, and we lost Mutet at 12-1. But we have Tien at 9-1, and we have Nori at 16-1. So we do have a chance of getting an automatic win in both tournaments if Tien plays Nori in the Metz final and if Korda plays against Djokovic in the Athens final. But overall, the outrights were really, really good. Now, of course, we still have to actually finish the deal and try to win a couple outrights for the entire event. But for the quarters, yeah, we kind of cleaned up. Nothing else to really add there. I feel like the 5-1 Hanfman long shot definitely covered all of the other losing options that you might have sprinkled along the way. Mostly chalk, though, which is fine because we ended up picking it. But either way, can still sweep the actual title winners, and we got 6 of the 8 quarters right. So can't complain. Kind of makes up for, I'd say, how bad the actual picks were for the lock and dog yesterday because we got a lot of the results we needed in order to win those quarter outrights. Anyway, nothing else to really add for the women's side, mentioning the WTA Tour Finals. 2 pretty boring matches. Paolini keeps getting buried in every match she plays. Pegula beat her 6-2, 6-3. It has been ugly. And Sabalenka beat Goff in straight sets. Goff was actually up a break early in the first set. And at that point, Sabalenka kind of just dialed it in and was able to get the break back when Goff was serving for the set. She was actually up 30-love, ended up blowing it. Then Sabalenka won the breaker, and then Sabalenka immediately went up 4-0 in the second set, and she ended up winning 6-2. So either way, pretty straightforward for the Americans, or I should say for Pegula. I mean, Goff, I picked her. I thought she'd lose to Sabalenka. I mean, we know that she'll beat Sabalenka in a Grand Slam final, but in terms of WTA finals on fast courts, really not a great matchup for Goff, and Sabalenka's firepower has been basically unbeatable in the event so far. For the group, Sabalenka 3-0, Pegula's 2-1, Goff is 1-2, and Paolini, as I said before, went over as she ended up going 0-3. For the other group, just to briefly touch upon that, sorry, just trying to pull that up. So for the other group, you ended up seeing Rybakina win the group at 3-0. Anisimova came in second at 2-1. Swiatek 1-2, and Alexandrova and Keys went a combined 0-3 after Alexandrova filled in for Keys. So we got the semis at this point. You're looking at Pegula against Rybakina, and you have Sabalenka against Anisimova. So Swiatek did not reach the semis, and neither did Goff. So there you go. Can't say that it was that shocking per se with the fast-paced courts. Not surprised Goff struggled on those. And I know that I believe she was defending champion, but still, the fact that Sabalenka beating her was pretty straightforward. Pegula, good for her, and Anisimova has been very good so far this season. So we'll see what happens, but a couple fun matches that should end up being quite entertaining on Friday. We're not going to cover that, though. Time to get back into the men's semis taking place in Athens and in Metz. Before we get into those matches, though, a reminder that you can check out my book.ag because they are a great place to bet on football, college football. You can bet on NBA, NHL, tennis, you name it. They're a prop builder for props as well. And you can use crypto for funding your account for getting nice payouts. And a reminder, when you have to buy book.ag, use the code SGPN for 100% bet bonus up to 500 customers. Book.ag promo code SGPN, $500 for new customers. We're also brought to you by Novig. So you can check out America's number one prediction market for sports, getting some great prices by using Novig. So check out the reduced juice available in 35 plus states. Download the app. When you do so, $50 to spend just $5 if use our promo code SGPN. And then actually Novig promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the recap of what happened in the quarters. Time to go on into the preview of the matchups in the semis. Now, initially, we did Athens first. However, Metz actually does start before Athens on Friday, so we're going to switch the order, starting off with Metz. Now, for the matches here, first match is going to be between Norrie and Sonego. Shop around. I've seen Norrie at minus 120. I've seen him at minus 140. To shop around, you can find different prices. Sonego, though, somewhere between even money and around plus 115. For the spread, minus 1.5 for Norrie, plus 1.5 for Sonego. The over-under in games is at 23.5. Now, for the head-to-head history, faced off a few times. Faced off this year, actually, back in Hong Kong in January. It was actually New Year's, and Norrie beat him in 3 sets. Faced off last year in Indian Wells, Norrie did win in straight sets, and faced off Monte Carlo 2019, and Sonego did win that one in straight sets. Now, the point is Norrie, in his career, is 2-0 in hard court against Sonego. The only meeting they had was 11 months ago, so it might not be exactly a great reference point, but it's better than nothing, so I'm going to mention it. Now, for the path so far, both guys have been winning in non-dominant fashion. So we saw Norrie beat Baez, beat Alcaraz in pairs, the big win there, lost to Vacherat. Showed up here, beat Royer, beat Kaza, beat Jacquet, all Frenchmen with the crowd against them in 3 sets. So it's been marathons, but he's been winning. So I guess that counts. Strength of schedule, not too bad. I mean, Jacquet in the quarters is a pretty lucky deal. Now, it's still a very close match, but Norrie has won every match in 3 sets. As for Sonego, he's won 2 of the 3 matches in 3 sets. Beat Choinski, beat Kaboli, nice win there, and beat Altmaier in straight sets. Could have won 3, but he found a way to pull out the tiebreak. So for the actual match here, should Norrie be the favorite? I'm going to say yes, but within reason. That's why I said shop around. I think Norrie minus 120 sounds about right. I think 140 sounds a bit expensive, and I do see some Sonegos out there at around plus 114. That does feel pretty generous for Sonego. I think that it should be closer to a pick'em. I would still have Norrie favored because I do think he is a guy who's been looking sharp, historically speaking, at the event. I mean, Sonego won the title here a couple years ago. Norrie made the final last year. So both guys have been good on these courts. Norrie, I think, has been solid. Sonego has been pretty good too, but I do think I'll go for Norrie with consistency. Sonego, we know, has a lot of firepower, but we know the shot selection can be questionable, and it does seem like mentally he could have a couple of lapses here or there. Norrie is going to take him to some deep waters, and we've seen Norrie really pass those tests every time. Sonego has done the same here, but we know Sonego this season has been quite underwhelming, and I do think that Norrie might frustrate Sonego if this goes the distance. Now, my favorite play is the over. I think it's going to be a marathon again. Said it before. They faced off in Hong Kong back in January. They did go to a 3rd set. See a similar story here. I don't really see much separating these guys, but I think Norrie's going to win. I mean, we gave him out to win the tournament, so we're kind of biased here. But I think it's going to be close either way. I like the over. I like the over 2.5 sets. I think it's going to be a war. And based on what we've seen from both guys, winning straight sets is not really in their DNA right now. So I am going to go with the over 2.5 sets. If I had to go for an actual pick here on the side, give me Norrie in 3. Moving on to the next match here. You're looking at the matchup between Sacco and Tien. What a massive line. What if I told you that Djokovic was not guaranteed to be the biggest favorite on the card? Because in some books, he's not. Tien is minus 670 in a couple of spots. Sacco, first ever ATP semi, is plus 460. For the spread, minus 4.5 for Tien, plus 4.5 for Sacco. The over-under's at 20.5. Now, there's 2 ways to bet this. Either you pick Tien to absolutely bury him, and you like the under, basically, or you're picking Sacco to hang in there, and you think maybe he covers the spread. That's kind of the 2 options you have. Look, for the path so far, Sacco went through qualifying, did lose to Tabor, but he ended up avenging that in 3 sets in the quarters. Beat Perricard, ended up beating Bublik. So difficult path. I know Perricard has not been that great this season. Still tough to deal with on indoor hard court, and Sacco did end up beating him in straight sets. Bublik was fighting for a Turin spot potentially as an alternate and a top 10 spot to end the year. Great win there, not fluky, played very well, and he avenged his qualifying loss to Tabor. So Sacco playing very well. As for Tien, he has been fine. Beat Blanchet, beat a relative unknown Ichargu, and ended up beating Berrettini in 3. The Berrettini match was kind of what I thought it was going to be. I thought that Berrettini would start off pretty well, thought he'd run out of gas, and I thought Tien would just take him into deep waters. And I dared Berrettini's fitness to hold up over 3 sets. It did not, and Tien eventually beat Berrettini because he unraveled physically, and you saw Tien keep his composure and keep his consistency en route to a nice 3-set win. Now, that makes this matchup interesting because Sacco does have an underrated amount of firepower, underrated net skills. He can't come forward. However, We know Tien is a brick wall behind the baseline. Sacco does have some unforced error issues at times. And I do wonder, with him playing so many matches, with him going to basically a marathon in 2 straight against Tabor and against Bublik in back-to-back days, playing his 3rd straight day after having back-to-back marathons, not really ideal. However, Tien, we saw go to a breaker against Achargu, and we also saw him you look good against Blanchette, who I don't think is very good at this point in his career, but that was a 6-3, 6-3. The point is, though, Sacco's been playing quite well, and I do think you might end up seeing at least one close set. So I might be in the middle. I think Tien's going to win. I think 670 is egregious. Like, that's not even a price I'd even consider taking in a parlay or anything. I wouldn't take straight sets either. At minus 215, no value there. I didn't mind the Tien team total over at 12.5. Pick Sacco to serve pretty well, force a competitive set. Maybe it goes to a breaker, or it goes 3 sets, and you're in good shape. I think Tien's going to win if I had to go for an actual side, but of course, he's minus 670. But I can't lay that number. I think Tien should be like minus 400. I think 670 is egregious, but I do think the team total might have some value if you do think Sacco, whose serve has been pretty good so far in the event, and he's backed it up with a solid forehand and good volleying. I think he can try to shorten points against Tien. Tien, not a great server, so maybe Sacco finds a break at some point. I'll go for the team total over for Tien in this one at around 12.5, minus 114. Moving on to the matches in Athens. So for this one, you have Djokovic taking on Hoffman, a rematch, actually, that we saw in Shanghai about a month ago. And Djokovic won that one in 3 sets. Now, Joker's mass favorite, but not as high of a price as Tien in some spots. He's minus 625. You can chop around. I'm sure some books have him like 700, but I see a 625. For Hoffman, I see 440. For the spread, minus 4.5 for Djokovic, plus 4.5 for Hoffman. The over-under is at 22.5 games. Now, Joker has been looking fine. He's not been dominant per se. He has had a breaker in the first set of both matches, but he beat Borges and he ended up beating Tabilo. Borges' match was not easy. Definitely was close. Djokovic almost got broken late in the first set. Did not fall off the break points, but either way, he did almost drop that first set. In fact, Borges ended up having a 15-40 into the 4-4 game. So wasn't exactly straightforward for Djokovic, but he found a way, eventually got the break midway through that second set, and he was able to convert and never get broken. For Hoffman, like Djokovic, he was not broken either in his matchup in the quarters, beat Giron in straight sets. In fact, he did not face a break point in the entire match. Now, unlike Djokovic, of course, he went through qualifying. Joker did have a bye, so Hoffman has played 3 more matches than Djokovic. And in those 5 matches, including qualifying, he's been broken a grand total of 2 times. Hoffman's been serving quite well, and that could lead the question, do I think Djokovic rolls, or do I think Hoffman, like he did in Shanghai, does he use the firepower, does he use the serve to somewhat neutralize the Djokovic return for a long enough period to cover this number? I'm going to say yes. I think Borges is an okay player. I think he's fine. But Joker didn't look great returning for a decent portion of that match, and I do think Hoffman's serve has been a very lethal weapon for him in the event, helping him make it to the semis. I think Joker's going to win, but I do think that the potential money line here, I mean, I'm not picking Joker to lose, if we're being honest here, but 4.5 does feel kind of expensive for Djokovic, who did not cover that number against Borges, and the fact is he had a breaker against Tabilo. Tabilo kind of unraveled in that second set. Joker's going to win most likely, but Hoffman proved in Shanghai he can frustrate post-prime Djokovic, and there is a chance with the serve. He can definitely hold serve 5 times in a row, and it's all you really need to get Djokovic to go over the team total to potentially cover the spread. Good enough for me. I think Djokovic ends up winning, but not covering. I don't mind the plus 4.5 for Hoffman, and I don't mind the Djokovic team total at around 12.5. Moving on to what might be the most competitive matchup on the card, either this one or Sonego against Norrie. It's Korda taking on Musetti. Now, Musetti, we know, does need to, let's say, have a great tournament run in order to make it into Turin, so he's very motivated. As for Korda, he's been injured for most of the year, which is kind of a summary of his entire career at this point, but he's been playing well. We'll see how he looks. Now, for the actual pricing, Musetti is technically, according to this book, the cheapest favorite. Norrie's minus 141 here. Musetti's minus 139. So shop around, but once again, Musetti is basically the same price as Norrie on this book, and Korda is a slight underdog, basically the same price as Sonego is at plus 114. Now, for the spread, minus 1.5 for Musetti, plus 1.5 for Korda. The over-under is at 23.5. Now, for the path for Musetti, One good match, one bad match. Ended up destroying Moore in the match on Thursday, and he had a war against post-prime Wawrinka. So the point is he's been pretty Jekyll and Hyde in the event. For Korda, though, he had a much-needed coast win in the quarters because he had a 3-set marathon against Popyrin, had a 3-set win against Zoomer, and then basically just destroyed Hikmanovic, who didn't want to be there. At least it looked like it. Now, I do think for the head-to-head, it's worth mentioning that Musetti and Korda have been split, currently tied 2-2. However, if you want to include very dated head-to-head information, the last meeting was 3 years ago, coincidentally, in this event. Faced off in Metz in 2022, and Korda did win in straight sets, was competitive, and he ended up winning 6-3, 7-6. So Korda did beat him on this exact court about 3 years ago. Does it matter? Maybe, maybe not. Pretty tough to tell. Musetti, though, did look a lot better, of course, than he did against Wawrinka. Korda looked good, too. The thing is, kind of similar to my thoughts on the Norrie match, it depends on the number. I think 140 is too expensive for Musetti. Korda's looked good. We know he's a solid hardcourt player, and I do think Korda, based on resume, has a better hardcourt resume than Musetti does. I mean, he won a 500 title back in DC last year. So Korda does have a pretty decent hardcourt resume, even though the Grand Slams, of course, have not really gone in his favor. I think 140 is too expensive on Musetti. I get that it's a must-win match for him, etc. But I think Korda has some value. I think it'll be close, but 140 does feel very, very expensive. But I do think you're looking at a spot where Korda might win, he might lose, but either way, I see it being close. Don't mind the over 2.5 sets. I see a marathon. But for minus 140, I think Musetti's a bit too expensive. I think he should be. I'm basically carbon copying my thoughts on the Norrie and Sonego match. But I think he should be minus 120, minus 125. Korda, though, looks good. Good hardcore player based on a resume compared to Musetti. I'm going Korda. Once again, pure bias because I have him to win the event. So I already thought going in, Korda had a decent path. I was not picking Musetti to make it to the final. I'm not going to cave now. Give me Korda at plus money to make it into the final. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for my thoughts on the semis for Metz and for Athens. Time to go into the lock and dog picks. Before we get into the lock and dog, reminder brought to you by our sponsor, Hellenic Fantasy. You can play for this pick entry, chance to win 5,000 times your entry. Pick different sports as well. They have tennis. Don't worry about it. They do have tennis. They have basketball. They have hockey. Name your sport, they basically have it. But a reminder, new offer for the customers, pledges $5, get $100 in bonus funds. Use promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. They're crushing in college football, the NFL, and they just added NBA. They also have models for college basketball if you want that too. Rhythm's giving away cash prize every week. Tracking your bets in the app, track 5 bets per model that you build, and you can win $1K. And a reminder, we have a nice discount code with Rhythm. If you use the code SGPN25, we download the app, get a quarter first month. That Rhythm wants a promo code SGPN25 for a quarter off first month. Rhythm, promo code SGPN25 for a quarter off your first month. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Scam Podcast. Finished going through the preview of the semis in Athens and in Metz. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. For the lock, I'm going to go back to Athens, actually. Going to sound dangerous, but I'll actually trust the serving. And what's been, I'd say, lackluster returning from the best returner of all time. Give me Djokovic team total over 12.5 at minus 140. I say this all the time on the show. I'll say it again. Caesars goes rogue on their team total pricing. You really need a Caesars book if you're going to bet tennis because they have 140 for Djokovic team total over. Some books have 13.5 for the actual team total. So forget 12.5 at 140. Some books have Djokovic 12.5 at like minus 170. Some books have 13 flat. I saw a book with 13.5. I think it was DraftKings with 13.5. 12.5, 140, sure, I'll take it. There's been a tiebreaker in each of the first two matches here for Djokovic against Tabilo and against Borges. Borges, not a great server, and Joker only broke him one time, and it took him a set and a half to do so. Now, Hoffman has been serving very well in the event. He's played 5 matches, including a qualifying, and he has been broken 2 times combined, faced 0 break points in the entire match against Giron on Thursday. He's serving well. I think it'll translate to the courts here, and Djokovic, once again, can still win the match in straight sets. The point is, I see a similar script to what we saw against Tabilo, where he struggles early to break, figures it out, but by that point, you're at 5-5 in the first set, and at that point, you're in good shape. But Hoffman played Djokovic about a month ago on hard court, and the match went to 3 sets. Joker won, but there was also a 7-5 set. It was close. I think intimidation will not be a factor here. Hoffman had Joker on the ropes last meeting. And the fact is he's serving very well. I think he'll serve well again here. Djokovic, give me the team total over 12.5 here at -140 as my lock. For my dog, I'm going to go to the matchup between Norrie and Sonego. I'm sure you know where I'm going with this one. Give me the over, 2.5 sets at +139. Took a shot with Norrie to win straight sets last round. Didn't work out. I have given up on that prospect. Instead, I'll go for the over 2.5 sets. Norrie has been dropping sets left and right. He's lost at least one set in 11 of his last 12, couple of marathon matches. Every match so far in the event for Norrie has gone to a third set. Also faced off back in January on hard court. That match also ended up going to a third set. Sonego has also been involved in a couple of marathons. 4 of his last 5 matches have also not ended in straight sets. So both guys are dropping sets. They're still winning matches, but I see it being close. Money line's close on the money line, or I should say on the pricing, I mean. And the fact is, Norrie and Sonego have been dropping sets all the time. Norrie is the favorite at around -140, has lost at least one set in 11 of the last 12. I can't ignore that. I think Sonego has got enough firepower to keep Norrie off balance for a set. I think Norrie's got enough consistency to keep Sonego off balance for a set. Good enough for me. Give me the over 2.5 sets at +139 as my dog. So once again, the plays here for the semis, the lock's going to be on Djokovic. Team total over 12.5 games at -140. For the dog, I'm going to go with a Norrie and Sonego over 2.5 sets at +139. To wrap up the show, back once again for the final in Athens and Metz. Till next time, reminder, check out the Tennis Camp podcast on, once again, YouTube. You can also check it out on Spotify or Apple. Like, subscribe on YouTube, leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple, and find me on Twitter at Reichel Radio. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bats. Bye, everyone.